Hello, friends. My name is Candy Williams, and I am so glad that you've taken a moment to join us today for our Well Chat. Well Chats are just an extension of the Well at Southside Church, and the Well is a gathering where women embrace the Lord's love. And that's what we do every Wednesday. We just gather on Facebook and we provide these videos that you can watch, and we pray that it would be an encouragement to you. Our Well Chats are just conversations with ladies just like you and I that are here to share their hearts, to open up their lives, and to challenge us in a way that they've been challenged in the Lord themselves, to make us all better. We believe that we are better together. And today I'm very excited with a friend that I have with me today. Her name is Sarah Burke, and she and Dylan and their sweet children have been coming to Southside for a few years now, and our church is better because of them. And they are just so faithful in life and in their devotion to their family and to their friends that are around them. And they're a huge encouragement to Jeff and I. And I'm so excited for Sarah to share wisdom that she has, because she is wise beyond her years. So, dear Sarah, will you please share with us a little bit more of who Sarah Burke is?
Yeah. My name is Sarah. I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama. I was raised in the church by two very God-fearing parents. My dad's company that he works for in Alabama was bought out when I was young, and so that's what moved us from Alabama to Georgia. And they decided to settle in Beaufort, where I went to school, and I met my husband at the end of my junior year of high school. And we have been together for 12 years, married 9. We have 4 kids, Peyton, Memphis, Jackson, and Cooper. We moved to Jefferson about 5 years ago, and we've been going to Southside just as long. I went to college right out of high school, but we decided to get married young and have children young. So it did take me some time to complete my degree, but I did. I graduated from the University of North Georgia with a degree in psychology and human services, where I'm now experienced in mental health and substance abuse treatment. Yeah.
Wow. So we are about to step into 2021. I'm so excited. There have been a couple of years where that 12 o'clock midnight, turning that leaf, that new page, meant so much to me in my heart. And I know that for everyone this year is so ready to experience a new year. 2020 has been so difficult. And so I know you shared with us your degree and what you majored in and your experience that you've had. Share with us a little bit of what life was like for you before COVID, what you were doing before COVID happened.
So prior to COVID, I had experience working in a 30-day in-house substance abuse treatment center. But my heart had always led me since I was young. And I think it was because of the mission work that we did and spreading the word to those of the less fortunate, that my heart had always been pulled to work with people who just really couldn't financially obtain their sobriety, because it is expensive, to get help sometimes. And I'd always wondered, where is that? Like, when am I going to get there? And so I applied to a job in Clark County at a crisis stabilization unit, where I found exactly what God had been putting on my heart and leading me to. My job there was unique. The clients that I had there were only going to be there for a minimum of 10 days. And in order to, for them to get to that unit, they had to have either attempted and failed at suicide, or be active users. And so it was my job to work alongside the doctor and create a treatment plan for them, and also figure out where in the world are these people going to go. The majority of my clients were homeless, or had really hit rock bottom multiple times and no longer had support, no longer had family that supported them or friends. And so we were really their only safe haven. And for the longest time, sometimes it was their only meal that they had had in months, that we provided for them. So my job was to find them either a treatment center that had to be free, a homeless shelter that had an available bed, a sober living that had to be free, or or a facility that was willing to work with them. And so it was my job to not release them back to the streets, but to find them support outside of our facility. Which every single time I would get that hard patient where I thought I couldn't place them, and I would just pray about it, and I would talk to my colleagues about it, and they're like, I promise you it's just going to happen. And it did. Every single time it just happened. I found a place for, all my clients to continue on their journey. And it was really, really rewarding. But of course, when COVID happened, I have a pre-existing condition that puts me at high risk for catching COVID and not recovering well from it. And so my job told me that, I was going to get FMLA for 12 weeks. They were going to pay for my insurance because I carried the kids and myself and Dylan on insurance. And so they paid for my insurance until those 12 weeks were up. But 12 weeks came and went, and obviously COVID was still running rapid, and I couldn't go back. It wasn't safe for me to go back. So I decided to resign. And now I'm the director of operations for one company and VP of people for another, where I'm still helping people in our community, as well as two different businesses, kind of grow. And I kind of help them figure out how to grow their business and create more revenue. And I'm kind of like on the HR side of things.
Well, that's a big change. You're just thinking about having to be in that world where you're faced with our culture today and the effect that it has on people mentally and substance abuse and just in their life choices. And just knowing that, I just thinking about people who were there that you were helping, how there had to been one day where they made one decision that just probably wasn't the wisest decision that they could have made. And I think that is such an important message to everyone listening, is every decision that we make is really important. And there are some decisions that are bigger than others, but we really have to weigh that in life and be sure that we are asking ourselves, is this a wise decision? And I think about just the things that you were able to experience growing up and being able to grow up in a home where your parents loved the Lord. And you mentioned you went on mission trips, and just how those different little things added up to the decision of what you went to school for and what your job was going to be when you got out, and how you were able to add all those things up, and God was able to add all those things up, and you were able to truly make life-altering choices and help for people who were there in that home that you were with. And I can't imagine how probably you were sad when you had to step away from that with COVID, but I know that the Lord has led you to where you are today, and the people that you're helping in these companies are grateful for you. And I'm just grateful that God's given you a new job. And I just want you to share a little bit about Dylan, because how did COVID affect Dylan and what he was doing before?
Yeah, so my husband owns D1 Buford, and it is a sports training facility for student athletes. And we had actually had our grand opening 3 weeks before COVID. And then we had to shut down, shut the doors. We had a great clientele. Just within those 3 weeks, we were really busy. Things looked really promising and amazing. And then it was like overnight, the world shut down. And of course, the gym was one of the first ones to shut down. And it was really hard. It was really hard on my husband. This was his baby. This is his dream. Sports training has always been an outlet for my husband, even when he was younger. And he likes to make a difference in other kids' lives as well that might find it as an outlet for themselves. So when we had to be quarantined, and stay inside, we had a lot of woe is me moments and thought, this is it. This is it. Like, we're going to have to move. We're going to pack up our bags and go to mom's house. Like, we thought it was over. And after we had those woe is me moments, we had really, really prayed on it, and really, I don't think we've ever had to really just give it all to God, to literally imagine ourselves taking all of that stress of finances and our home and our health and just literally imagine ourselves laying it at the feet of Jesus and walking away.
Wow.
And knowing it's going to be okay. And that was really hard for us. But we did it. And our woe is me moments turned into days of worship. We would blast worship music in our home, on our little Google home. And then my husband would blast it in the garage. Our neighbors probably thought we were nuts. We were outside working out and doing the ropes and singing to Jesus and stuff like that. But it became more of a, he's got this, and kind of therapy for us to turn it all over. And, we were able to open the gym back, and our numbers in the beginning were really slow, but just last week, my husband signed on a travel football team, and his numbers went from, 100 to 300 in one day. And so he continues to show up and show us that those prayers and giving that to him that we did during our time in quarantine is still overflowing. Like, he's still showing up every single day for us and for my husband's company. And it's a blessing. It's amazing to sit back and watch and just relax and know that decision that we made to turn everything over is still overpouring into our lives.
That is awesome. I think about that, and I want to lead into, just a nugget that you'd like to share with us and just the success of your marriage. And I think for so many of us, we've been quarantined at home with our spouses and with our families. And, we're going to either do what you said. We're either going to open our hands up and commit everything we have to the Lord and trust Him to bring us all through it and work together. Or we're going to be like this, and we're going to fight against God. We're going to be angry, and we're going to fight against one another. But I think that that's what life's about. Life is about keeping our hands open to the Lord and embracing one another through every part of life, hard times, good times. But share with us. You may have something else to add. You may just want to reiterate that, I don't know. What is a nugget that you would share with us that you feel has attributed to the success of being able to say you've been married for 12 years? You're starting your legacy, my friend.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, Dylan and I decided to get married young. We met in high school, and we're pretty much inseparable. But we had to grow a lot together. We're not the same people that we were in high school or college or 5 years ago. And that's one thing about us is that what has always maintained in our relationship is that we are best friends, that he is my confidant. When I am stressed, when I am having a panic attack, which has happened more than I wanted to this year with 2020, he still is like by my side. He loves my crazy. And it's like, you would never think that someone would stick around for somebody that is so anxious like myself. And he is so patient with me. And I am patient with him as well. But our honest communication and loyalty to each other, I think, is what keeps us going every single day. You know, if I have a problem, if there's something that maybe he has done or said that I didn't appreciate, I'm immediate. It like we're not gonna take this on to the next day or the next day or the next day. I immediately tell him, you know, this is how it made me feel. And he's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, you know, that upset you. And we talk ourselves through it, and we don't, you know, then we don't have to bring it up again. There are things that he has told me, you know, I need these things to change in our life. And it's just, you know, it's work. Marriage is not sunshine and roses all the time. And I'm glad that I get to do life with somebody who loves me so well and truly loves me like Jesus does. Like, he has seen me in my ugliest moments and still pulls me in close and hugs me and lets me know that I'm loved. And it's just really comforting. It's comforting and to know that I have somebody like that.
That was awesome. I would just like to I think about our 20-somethings, our little 20-something friends that are listening today. And you talked about how much you've changed since you were in college and since you first got married. And we changed so much between the ages of 20, or back it up to 18 to 30. The Lord does a tremendous amount of work in our lives during those years. So some of the things that you desire today won't be the same things that you desire in a few years from now. And the way that you act and react are going to be different in a few years. But this was premarital counseling 101, my friend. I mean, what incredible advice to be open and honest with one another, and to be able to have that open line of communication, and to allow each other for your husband to be your best friend. And Jeff is my best friend, and I know that I can talk to him about anything, and he knows when I'm having a bad day. I know when he's having a bad day. And I think the thing that you talked about being patient and being gracious with one another, those are huge. And being able to know that you can talk to one another, because we can't just always assume that we know what each other's thinking or what each other wants. And so if your husband knows that he has an open line of communication to you, and you the same with him, you can be honest with one another. And that's how our relationships grow. So that's incredible. So share with us a little bit, because I think that you both probably, I know a little bit of the backstory here, but had to practice some patience and some understanding when it came to going to church. Talk to us a little bit about how important you and Dylan value going to church together as a family, and how that really came about.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, I was raised in the church. All the men in my family, my grandfather's preacher. The men in my family are deacons and elders in the church still today. I was raised going to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. We spent our summers doing church conventions, Bible camp, mission work in Nicaragua and here locally in Georgia. And that's literally all I knew. My entire life revolved around church since I was born. Even when we were sick, my mom was like, well, there's no better place to be than church to get healed. And so we really never missed church. It was part of our life. It's all I knew. Dylan also, he was raised knowing the importance of his faith and knowing the importance of God, but did not go to church as regularly as I did. And when we were together, he immediately knew that this was a priority for me. This is just what I do. I go to church, and I would love for you to come with me. And he did for a little while, while we were dating. But he never really felt like he could learn and connect at the church that I was attending. It really just wasn't his style of learning, because he still was so new to his faith, and still, wanted to learn those little Bible stories that was embedded in my brain since I was born, that he still did not know. And so when we started having children, immediately it was, we have to go to church. Like, we have to raise our kids in the church. And he would come with us occasionally. And then it got to where he wasn't. And I stopped asking eventually. And it's just I just took the kids with me to church on Sundays and came home and didn't really talk about it. And it wasn't until we moved to Jefferson about 5 years ago. We had moved in on a Saturday, and we were outside. It was a pretty day, letting the kids play outside. And our new neighbors that we just moved next to, was Josh and Lindsay Sneed, who have since moved, but were lifelong members of Southside. And Josh immediately asked us, where do you guys go to church? And I was like, well, I've been attending a church in Lawrenceville with my family. And he was like, you need to come to Southside. You need to come with us. Why don't y'all come with us tomorrow? Dylan immediately was like, absolutely.
How spontaneous. Tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and Dylan was like, yeah, we'll go. Let's go tomorrow. And I'm like, are you kidding me? After all, like, really? And so even when we came inside, it was like quiet for a moment. And he was like, what? And I was like, are you really? Why would you tell them that if you're not going to go? And he was like, we'll go. We'll try it out. I was like, okay. And so we went. And of course, I've talked to you about this before, is Southside is much different than what I was raised in. And Dylan was very quiet, and during church and after church, and we get in the car, and he looked at me and he was like, I'm blown away. Like, I'm blown away. And I was like, really? Like we're going to come back, or like, you don't want to come back? And he was like, oh no, we're not going to miss a Sunday.
Oh.
And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, oh my gosh. And so it was literally, it changed our life. Southside changed our life. It was the week before Easter. So we have been at Southside, it will be 5 years the week before Easter. And really, we haven't missed. We dove right in, and started serving right away. We've been, greeting on the kids' hall for almost 5 years. And my kids love it there. And it's just, Dylan had always been a leader in our house. Like, I'd always given him that space to be the leader in our house and make those important decisions and let him have the last word as far as our family goes. But what I needed was a Christian leader. I needed to guide my kids and myself, and needed that support for myself to grow my faith and maintain my faith in God. And Southside gave me that. My husband is now a Christian leader in our home, and is not afraid to share his faith with other people, and reach out to people and pray over people. I mean, like, it's just, he's a whole new human being, and it's been a blessing for sure.
Love that. I just think about the power of invitation. And this is my challenge to all of our friends listening today, because you don't know who your neighbor, if you don't know who your neighbor is, if you have a new neighbor, it could be a new neighbor at work that's working beside you, or maybe you've never extended that invitation to someone to just join you at church, because you never know who's just waiting to be invited. And to know who God is just putting in your path to invite. And there's a family behind that person that you're inviting to church. And I just think about the power of patience, and you being patient and waiting on the right moment, and not getting upset with Dylan for not being at church. And sometimes they need to just understand that we love them no matter what. I was just listening to a podcast today, and it talked about how, we can't do anything that would make God love us any more. And we really can't do anything that would make him love us any less. And that's the relationship that we should have with our family. around us is loving them no matter what, and being consistent in that. And when the power of invitation does come and it's the right fit, the church is the right fit for everyone in the family, it'll be great. So compromise, sometimes we have to learn to do that as well. Well,
yeah. Sorry. It was a compromise. It was a compromise for me too. Southside, not that like Southside is amazing, and but it was different for me. I'd never been to a church like Southside, because the church I was raised in we didn't have instruments or anything like that. So it was a quick decision. It was, this is what's best for my husband to grow. And I would rather him grow and be comfortable in the Lord than to not go and to not feel comfortable. And for us not to potentially raise our kids in the church. And I'm glad that God gave me that immediate, you are in the right place.
Right.
Comfort.
That is awesome. Well, take us back for just a brief moment. You were talking about how much before COVID, your degree and your experience in life led you to be able to minister at this home where homeless people who were addicted and had substance abuse going on in their life. Help us, if we have a friend, maybe we're dealing with substance abuse ourselves. We're sitting there listening, and we maybe need help, but we don't know where to find help. We don't know how to help ourselves or help a friend or a family member. Can you just speak into that? And I know it'll have to be brief, and I know that we're not going to be able to dive into this. Could be a whole new episode, but just being able to maybe sense some symptoms that could be going on in someone's life and how to help.
Yeah. So I have personal experience in losing a loved one to addiction, actually after I got into this field. And I have a lot of friends who are in recovery that are some of the most amazing people I've ever met. And that's what's led me to still continue to be an advocate for mental health and substance abuse, people who are seeking recovery. So for those of you that have family members or a loved one that is fighting addiction, one of the best advice that a friend of mine who has over 20 years of recovery under his belt pulled me aside one day, because I was so upset. Like, why can't I just shake it out of you? Why can't you see it how I see it? And he calls me an earth person. You're an earth person. You're not somebody that suffers from an addiction. He said, you can't fight for their sobriety more than they are. And I was like, that's so true. I mean, I can't, because in order for someone to make such a life-altering decision to get sober, they have to want it more than themselves. I can't want it more than them, because it's never going to work. They have to want to do it for themselves. I had to set a lot of boundaries with my loved one that passed prior. I had to be in the distance and to see everything go on from afar, and but still love them from a distance and know that door is open. It's always open. But in order to protect myself from heartache and worry, I had to set a lot of boundaries and find a support group. I am a big believer in Al-Anon. It's in Nar-Anon. There are tons of groups all around the community in every single county where people are experiencing the same things that you are, experiencing that worry and the heartache of potentially losing your loved one to an addiction. And these people will surround you and be able to answer your call at 2:00 in the morning when you wake up and you're crying. They're going through the same thing or have been through the same thing and lost a loved one. And pray. Find your strength in the Lord every day, every second. I wrote down a verse that was given to me, 1 John 4:7. It tells us to love one another, for the love is of God. Also, Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer with thanksgiving, be present in your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And you just constantly remind yourself that God's got this. Like, God's going to fight this battle with them. All you need to do is take care of yourself. I feel like that's the only way to protect yourself and to not totally, leave your loved one feeling like they don't have anyone. If you're able to set those boundaries and take care of yourself and find a support group, I feel like you'll find some sort of peace within yourself. And also, if you're struggling now, you're loved, you're needed, you're wanted, and you are 100,000% deserving of recovery, and you will recover. The Lord doesn't want you to show up when you're done being messy, when you're done being sick. He wants you to show up now. He wants you to show up at a meeting or at a treatment center, or at someone's doorstep and I need help. That's all you have to say, or have someone advocate for you. I also wrote down 3 scriptures that I like to share with my clients. One of them is 1 Corinthians 10:13. It's no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with this temptation, he will provide the way of escape that you will be able to endure. That's awesome. Also, an old church hymn, I thought it came to my head last night as I was writing these verses down, is Come All You Are Weary, which comes from Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all of you that are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in the heart, and you will also find your rest. Amen. Another one, and the last one is 1 Peter 5:10. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. So God tells us in his word that you will recover. You're going to recover. It is possible. And there are people like myself and my colleagues that are going to love you like Jesus does and be a non-biased heart and ear and help you in any way that we can possible.
I love all of that. And I think the greatest thing that you said is talking about how to depend on the power of God. And we have to pray that into fruition for it to be mightily evident inside of our lives. But I think about the power of God resurrected Jesus from the dead. And, when we are so not living in the way that God has for us, he has a purpose for each of us to live out in life. And that purpose is to honor him and bring glory to him and to live a life of freedom. And when we are strapped in this stronghold of addiction, we're not free. We're not living in our freedom. And so I feel like that true self that God made us to be is not alive. But the power of Jesus can come alive inside of us, and he can resurrect that. And I just think that as family and friends of someone who may be in addiction, or if you are, pray that power would be resurrected inside of you, because I believe, like you said, that God has more for us than being strapped and underneath that weight, so that we can have that peace and we can have that rest in life.
Yeah.
Well, I know now you're doing some life coaching, not only helping those come out of addiction and substance abuse and suffering and mental health issues. Now you've kind of changed chapters a little bit and are doing some life coaching. And for me, I know not everyone sets New Year's resolutions, but I'm a big New Year's resolution girl. And I set goals for myself for the year and things that I want to change to make myself better, to help make my family better, to help be a better person at our church. And so I can get weighted down in that a lot, but help all of us, dear Sarah, know how to set goals and how to achieve those goals in our new year.
Yeah. So you really got to prioritize your life. What are the things that are really, really important to you that you really want to change? Like, do you want to keep a cleaner house? Do you want to lose that 30 pounds? Do you want to run that marathon? What is it? What is it that you really, really are passionate about that maybe you haven't stuck with, or it was really, difficult to stick with that in this past year. But in order for you to reach the maximum of your priorities, you have to set teeny tiny little goals to get there. You can't just lose 30 pounds overnight. And you're not going to lose that 30 pounds in 1 month when we usually give up on our weight loss journey in January. So what are you going to do every single day that you're going to make a priority in order to get healthier or run that marathon or keep your house cleaner? What are you going to do that? One thing that I did this year was I wanted to pick up running. I don't know why. I just decided I wanted to pick up running. And I decided, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to do it. I'm going to run a mile. Absolutely not. Did not happen. I was a hot, sweaty mess and I was dying on the street. So that's why I had to come to Jesus meeting with myself. And I was like, you can't do it overnight. Like I have to set these teeny tiny goals in order to get to where I'm going. And so I would run my street, just 2 laps. That's it. And come inside and be about my business. And then the next week I would add another lap or another street. And eventually I could run my entire neighborhood. It took me a few months, but I had to set these teeny tiny priorities in order to get myself to that goal. I am a big believer in what's called time blocking. So you literally set your day from 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. and you write it down. So we might have 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'm sleeping. 5:15, I'm going to set my coffee maker and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to walk my street. 5:30, I'm going to open my devotional, write my affirmations, and just enjoy peace and quiet. 6 a.m., I'm going to wake up my kids and get them dressed. 6:15, I'm going to eat breakfast with my kids, literally breaking it down to the minute. I even put down, 9:45 a.m., take a break from work, go outside and practice what's called grounding. So you experience the outside, and just breathe. Leave your phone in the office and just breathe and be quiet within yourself, pray, and walk a lap in the parking lot if you have to, and then go back to work. So with time blocking, let me see if you can see it on my phone. I like to write it down. And Katie and I talked about apps on our phone, but I am not disciplined enough to have something like that because I will venture off to Instagram or Pinterest, and now my whole day is gone. So I like to write things down. So I don't know if you can see this. Some people like to do it in colors, but it's literally blocked off. Every single second of their day is blocked off and color coded. And I think that has worked best for me because I do have an ADD mind. And I do have 4 children. And so every single day is different for me. There's a different sport to go to every day, or going to help my husband at the gym. And if I make that time block every single day of even 5 minutes of a time, that this is Sarah time, this is Sarah's breathing time, or I'm going to go do laundry for 10 minutes, things like that, in order to prioritize my life and be a happier person. Because I've set those goals for myself every single day, and I've gotten them done. I'm able to be like, check, check, check. You got it done. You did it. And that's what's best for me.
That is great. I think that is so important in thinking and asking yourself, what are some things you want to see different in your life? And, you can look back. I've challenged us a little bit in the last few well chats, and this time last year, and looking at where you've come within this last year, but then thinking about this time next year. And thinking about the different areas of your life, yourself, and thinking about yourself can be broken up into different areas as well, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And then you think about your family and what your role is to your family, and in work, in your career, and in your health physically. So all of those things, you can find that there may be some things that need to be fine-tuned a little bit in what those priorities are. And it's great to write down some goals, but like you said, unless you write down some little steps and how to achieve those goals, they're just always going to be goals. We're not making a plan. We're not making a map on how we're going to get there. And so just 2 little things for myself and just the year 2020. Our church is walking through the New Testament together. So that was something that I wanted to do. And that reading plan that we had was a great way for me to just check it off every day. And that I was able to, and I might miss a day, but I would try to make it up the next day. But it's great to have, like you said, paper and pen and being able to check some things off.
Right.
And then I knew I needed to be healthy. And, we can think about, we need to lose weight, but is it necessarily that we're wanting to just lose weight, or do we want to become healthier? And those things are going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take effort in our food choices and how we're working out and being physical. And so I set a goal for myself to work out a certain number of days in the year. And this is the app that Sarah's talking about, because I'm a big Microsoft, the To-Do app, and everything's got a place in the To-Do app, I'll tell you. It gets hairy some days, but I live by that and by my calendar. And like you said, you do time blocking. I put it in my calendar, and I have notifications that go off to remind me of what's coming up and what's next. But in the to-do calendar, for me to make sure I worked out the number of days this year, I did a countdown. 1 of 190. I wanted to work out 190 days. 2 of 190, 3 of 190, and I'm almost there. I'm so excited that, unless I get sick, I pray not, that I'll be able to get those 190 workouts in. And I will tell you, I would have never been able to do it if I hadn't have done that checklist. And so, you have to do what works for you. If it's apps, if it's on paper and pen, having an accountability partner, what's going to hold you accountable in the year 2021 to accomplish the priorities and the goals in your life. And it could be a small group. It could be an accountability partner at church. It could be your spouse. It could be someone at work. I don't know what that is, but I know the greatest accountability partner that we can have is in our Savior. And I would like for everyone, I'm just going to challenge you to dwell on Psalm 37. Over the next few days, just read Psalm 37, and I'm going to read a few verses to you, and then we'll say our goodbyes. But I love where it starts. Psalm 37 starts in my favorite starts in verse 3. Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Dwell in the land and live securely. Live confidently in Him. I love this. This is a verse that I claim a lot for myself and for my friends. And it says, take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Delight in Him every day, and expect for Him to give you your desires. Write those down. This is where I'll close us out. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust Him, and He will act. Trust Him, and He will act if we commit our way to Him, and that His way will be our way. But thank you to all of our friends. Thank you, dear Sarah. I pray abundant blessings over all of you as we enter into 2021 together. May it be a much better year. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.